And we're going to get it. We're going to figure it out. I promise you guys. I promise you. I will probably be doing classes for another 10 years because I don't plan on retiring. So if you don't make it this year through it, I'll be here next year and the year after. Just come sit for free. You know, bring some. I like lattes. Bring me a latte every once in a while. You get a point. Don't want sugar. It's just a plain latte. Plain latte. My wife will tell you. She went through Starbucks one time and says, I needed a latte for a latte. And they said, is this for your husband? Because he's lactose intolerant. He can't take milk and like.
She was so mad.
She was so mad. The Starbucks girl knew more than my wife. She didn't know I was lactose intolerant.
She still do his laundry too.
She still talks about that.
You still drink a latte?
Yeah.
There's milk in it.
I don't know where the girl got that I was lactose intolerant. I just rolled with it. I'm really not. Okay. But what do you think? I'm going to tell my wife no? I'm going to say, yeah, that girl knows a lot about me at Starbucks. Make her a little jealous. So estates and land. So it defines the degree, the quality, the nature, and the extent of somebody's ownership interest in that land. And it's measured by duration. So a freehold estate, if you have a freehold estate, you have that forever. Okay? And that's why they say estates are measured by duration also, because a leasehold estate could be for a definite length of time, a defined length of time. Remember when I gave Bonnie one of my, what are these called? Bundles of rights, right? You have land, you have real estate, and then what was the third thing you had that included the bundle of rights? What was it? Land goes down the center of the earth up to infinity. Real estate is the improvements, either natural or man-made on it. And then what was the third thing that included the bundle of rights? Real property. Real property is the bundle of rights, the real estate, and the land. And remember, I gave her the right to possess, right? But am I going to give her that forever? No, there's going to be a time. There's a time with that. There's a time with that. So that's why we can measure estates by a duration of time. And time could be a lot of different things, as we're going to get into here. Okay? So a freehold estate is forever for real estate and real property. A leasehold estate is for a definite, a defined length of time, and typically you have a contract, and it would be considered personal property. So that leasehold estate that I gave her, she don't own that real. That's not real property. She has. What does she have? That leasehold estate is personal property. You may need to know that. You didn't know it all, huh?
Yeah, this whole little chart.
This whole little part. So that's why you know what, I'm feeling kind of sassy right now. So we're gonna dig into this a little bit and get through a few. So estates and land determine the owner's degree, quality, nature, and extent of interest in real estate. See Figure 5.1 in your book. Not all interest in real estate are estates. They must allow for possession and be measurable by duration. So you have freehold estates. It's an estate for an indeterminable period of time, and you have leasehold estates. So let me see if I have some handouts for chapter 5. Look at all the handouts I got. There's a lot in this chapter. So I don't know. What's number 5 look like? The thing they're showing you for number 5. Is that chart right there? Wow, man, I must be really in the mood for this here. Andrew, can you pass these out for me? Let me see what I'm looking for here. I'm looking for it. Maybe this one here. License. Old 2003. Let me go first. Son of a gun. Son of a gun. I don't have the one I want, but it's in the book. Is that in the book right there? Is that the one we're looking at right here? Okay. I'll get a copy of that made before it's all said and done. What page is that diagram on? Andrew, I'm gonna need this diagram printed out for the next class. It's on page 72. I'll figure it out. So you have freehold estates. Okay, let's all go to 72. I'm sorry I don't have my handout for it. So we're gonna have to work off the book. Dog ear this page of the book. It's an important page. Okay? So everything starts with a freehold estate. And then from there, it's going one of two ways. You can either go to a fee simple estate or a life estate. Okay? There it is. It's on my slide 17 of this. We'll probably just print it out from there. I'm just not real happy with the way this flows, guys. I'm sorry. So you can have a freehold estate or a leasehold, one way or the other. Okay, a leasehold estate does not involve ownership. It's for a fixed period of time. There's different types of leasehold estates. We're going to get into these in a little bit more detail as we go through. So don't stress over it. Just listen to it right now. You can have an estate for years, an estate from period to period, an estate at will, an estate at sufferance. And a leasehold estate typically involves a contract. I'm not happy with the way this is laid out. I'll redo it over the weekend and we'll touch base back on it a little bit better. A freehold estate is an indeterminable length. So, Ellen, your property that you bought, you probably have a freehold estate. That as long as you are alive, you own that property, and you can sell that property anytime you want without anybody else telling you, other than your mortgage company, right? Or you could mortgage it. You can will it. That's a freehold estate. She has all the rights, and there's no time limit on it. She can will that down to her kids. Her kids can will it to their kids. They can will it to their kids forever. Okay? Then that's called fee simple. That's the best ownership you could have. Okay? Fee simple absolute. And then if you're looking at that drawing there, then it can go to fee simple absolute. So looking at the drawing, the normal person goes and buys a piece of real estate. They have a freehold estate. And the normal person then, it would go to the left. They have a fee simple. They're about the same. They mean the same thing. I know it's confusing. But then from there, you could do one of two things with that estate. It can be fee simple absolute, which Ellen owns right now, or it can be fee simple defeasible. Now, what the hell does that mean? Fee simple defeasible means that there's either a special limitation with the possibility of retrievership or a condition subsequent with the right of reentry. So let me give you an example. Ellen owns fee simple absolute, right? Let's say Ellen had a fee simple estate and she wanted to give property to Ross Draver Township for a park. She can give them that property, fee simple, defeasible, okay? And say, Ross River Township, I'm gonna give you this property, free, simple, defeasible, but I'm gonna put a special limitation on it that if you do not use it for a park, I get it back. That's where that's used, okay? And then the condition subsequent, the same thing. The only difference between the two, one you have to go to court to get it back, one you don't have to. So a good example of that is, what's the name of the crossroad? Island Crossroads? Does anybody know where Island Crossroads is? Okay, in Bell Vernon there, right where the crossroads is. Is that where Island Crossroads is at? Where's Island's Crossroads at?
Isn't it up in, to the high school or to Rushmore?
Okay, in the high school going down to there. So the Allen family owned at one time most of that property in Ross Draver, all the way down to Walmart. So behind Lowe's, there's a ball field. I don't know if anybody knows that. And the Allen family gave that property fee simple, defeasible, with the right of retriever to the school district, Ross Draver School, and said, as long as you use that for school purposes, it's yours. But the minute you quit using it for school purposes, we want it back. Okay?
It's not being used as anything right now.
Well, it was a park. It was a baseball field. It was a baseball field. And the school would go over there and cut the grass. Cut the grass over there. So the school superintendent called me up. Okay. Andrea, can you pass these out?
Yep.
Dr. Janet.
The superintendent called me, and we're going to pass these out.
I think they might read them.
I know you can't, but they're going to get it. If this is like Ellen's deed, because this is some shit hard stuff to remember, so I gotta try to make it easy.
I can't.
Okay?
When was this written?
This is how an old deed used to look.
1881.
1881.
Oh, I see.
So in this deed, the Allen family conveyed this property to Bell Vernon School. But what I got highlighted, if you can read it, states that as long as they use it for school purposes. If not, then it would go back to the original owners. Can anybody make that out? Is anybody good enough to read that? That what I have highlighted? I would love for somebody to read that exact verbiage. Okay? Take it home tonight and read it. But that's what it means. So, when the school district contacted me and said, Tom, I want to sell that property, we listed it. We listed it. And one of the Allen family heirs contacted me and called me up and said, Tom, my family donated that property to the school district, and it was to be used for school district purposes. And now that you're selling it, we want it back. I already had the darn thing under contract. I had it under contract.
So you didn't know that this.
I didn't know.
Okay.
So when we pulled the old deed up, it was shown to me. So what we had to do was, we couldn't sell that piece. We had to give it back to the Allen family. Because the school district, Fisher has if you go on Broad Avenue, Fisher has a landscaping supply business there, right? Well, right behind that, there's an old ball field. Well, the township, the school district's been cutting the grass there for years. Ain't nobody playing ball there. So they didn't want the property anymore. They wanted to sell it. But now, because the
school
Allen,
didn't even know about this then.
what's that?
The school didn't even.
They didn't even know about it. So If it wasn't for that heir of the Allen family reaching out to me and saying, "Hey, Tom, what you doing, man? That property's supposed to come back to my family." My grandmother told me back in the day, we gave that property to the school district, and if they ever didn't use it for school district stuff, we got it back. So that's where that would come. Does that make sense now that you're looking at that craziness? Because before it was just a lot of words. Laura was looking at me like, what the hell, it's after 3 o'clock, and you're still talking, and all I'm hearing is okay? So if you have a freehold estate, you bought a piece of property, most of the time when you buy a piece of property, you get a freehold estate, okay? You can keep it absolute, like Ellen's doing, or you can get rid of it fee simple to feasible, okay? But they have to use it for a specific purpose. And there's two different fee simple to feasibles. One they have to take you to court to get it back, one they don't. So people may donate property to Ross Draver Township to use for a park. And they'll say, I'll give you this property, Ross Draver Township, to use as a park, as long as you use it as a park. But the minute you don't use it as a park, it comes back to me. Does that make sense? Is that layman terms how you could use that?
So absolute, you have it.
Absolute, nobody can tell you anything. The feasible, there's a condition. As long as you're using it for that condition, you can keep it. But the minute you quit using it for that condition, it goes back to the original people. And people donate stuff to townships and school districts for parks and recreational areas all the time. And that's just a smart way of saying, I'll give it to you, Val Vernon School District, as long as you're using it for what I'm telling you I want you to use it for. But the minute you quit, it comes back. Okay. Oh, I like that. I'm starting to get excited. Now there's life estates. And we're going to go back over a lot of this next week, but I wanted to touch a little bit because did anybody read this unit yet? Unit 5? Did you? Was it a little bit confusing?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's very confusing. And it's very important.
A lot of this stuff is on the test.
A lot of this stuff is on the test.
The difference between these things.
That's why I didn't let you go home early, Bonnie. I wanted to whet your appetite a little bit with this, and then we're going to be fresh, right? Tuesday, we're going to be fresh. First thing in the morning, we're going to jump back into this. Hopefully my sinus infection is completely gone by then, and we'll be good to roll. Then you can do a life estate. So freehold estate is the highest way you can own real estate. Now, you can take it from freehold to fee simple estate, same damn thing, as far as I'm concerned. Okay? And from fee simple, you can go fee simple absolute. I think this is the same as this and all this. All this, and this. The guy can do whatever he wants with the property, and nobody can tell him anything different. But if you go to fee simple to feasible, now you're giving that property to somebody with a condition that they use it for a specific reason. And if they don't, it comes back to you. Now let's talk about a life estate.
Wait, is that what you did with your property on the river? You said they couldn't build a house on it?
No, that was a deed. What was that called down at the river? What I did with the mobile home? A deed restriction.
So what's the difference?
The difference is with the deed restriction, they couldn't put a mobile home on it. If they did, I would have to take them to court to remove it.
You would have just given that.
But this, you get the property back. I wouldn't get the property back down the river. I would just make them take the mobile home off of it.
With the fee simple to feasible, can you sell the property with condition, or does it have to do something different?
That's a good question. I would say you probably could do both. I would say don't worry about it. You're not going to see that on the test. Most of the time, when somebody gets something fee simple to feasible, it's more used for giving property to a school district, a township, a church, something to be used for a specific purpose. And if they quit using it for that purpose, you get it back. That's what it's used for. Could you sell it to him for that? I don't know. Maybe you could, maybe you can't. I don't know. Probably could.
Want to know if it was like, I have this plot of land, you want to farm on it, I can sell it to you, you have to use it to farm it. You got it.
Yeah, I don't know. That's a good question. Good question. It's above my pay rate. Let's talk about life estates. Okay? I'm being honest with you. So now you own a piece of property, you have a freehold estate, right? You own this property. Now, why do we even talk about estates? Why estates and land? Isn't that even confusing? Isn't it? Right?
Yes, it is.
Well, come up here. I'm going to show you how estates got. So, I thought I had this Burger King crown just to have it. But I have it to make an example that you're going to remember. Okay? So, back in the day, the King of England, he was a pretty smart guy. Okay? Pretty smart guy. He owned all the land, right? In England. But he had a lot of enemies. Everybody wanted to kill him because he was a bad guy. Didn't he tell people that were hungry, eat cake? Did the King of England say that? I don't know.
Yeah, that's what we get.
What's that? Maybe not. So the king's a pretty smart guy, owns all this land. But back in them days, there wasn't the money, it was gold. But if you had land, you had everything. You could farm and feed your family. You could put animals on it. You could cut the wood down to make wood to be warm. So back in those days, if you had land, you had power. Still to this day, baby. So the king was a pretty smart guy. So he would go to his strong knights and he would say, you know, Ray, you're a pretty good guy. I like you. I'm going to give you this land right here. I'm going to put a condition on it. As long as I'm living, you can have that land. The minute I die, the land comes back to my family. That's called a life estate. He gave him that estate and that land on the life of somebody, and the life was the king. Now, I got all kind of people want to stick a knife in my back because I'm the king, right? Ain't that the way it worked? Anybody history buff? Jacob, was it? They all want to kill the king. King's eating cake, and the peasants didn't even have bread. Wasn't there a comment made let them eat cake? Wasn't there something? What's something like that? I don't know. Google it.
It was pudding.
Pudding?
I think it's pudding.
So the king is giving people land to use for the life estate, that you can use this land as long as I'm living. And the second I die, the land goes back to my family. Now, Ray has an interest to make sure I'm alive, right? I mean, if Seneca said, come over to Ray one day and say, I'm going to stick a knife in that sucker's back, what's Ray going to say? Ray's going to put her out. He's going to knock her out. Because if I die, he loses his life estate. Does that make sense? So that's how it was created. Okay? So now let's give you a couple examples on how a real day life is used. Okay? So I own the property, I'm the king, right? When you own property, you're the king. Ellen, you own your property, you're the queen. You have a freehold estate in it. You can give your property to somebody for a life estate.
Says it's not inheritable though.
Don't confuse things, just roll with me, squirrel.
Alright.
Don't confuse me, because I'm confused already.
Alright.
You can give somebody doesn't have anything to do with life insurance or dying, no. You can give somebody, so what I could give Lexi a life estate right now. I'd have to have Neen sign off on it because she owns the property, but we can give Lexi a life estate. And we can tell Lexi, we're going to give you a conventional life estate where you can live in the house, and we can do one of two ways with that. You can live in that house, and you can do a life estate with an ordinary life estate with a remainder or revision, And we could say, Lex, you can live in that house as long as you're living. But when you pass away, the house comes back to me and Neen. And if we're dead, it would go back to our heirs. Okay? Or, bless you. Or, I can do it pour de vie. Pour de vie is French. I've taken French for 4 years in school, and the only word I know is pour de vie because somebody told me it was French. Okay? And that means the remainder interest going to somebody else. So Lexi has a brother, Paul. I am not going to say Paul is the responsible one, and I'm not going to be the one to say that. But I may go to Paul and say, Paul, I'm giving Lexi a conventional life estate. She can live there as long as she's living, but when she passes away, the property is going to revert to you, Paul, because you're the responsible one, and you're going to make sure she don't let the place go to shit. And you're going to take care of your sister. If your sister needs some help, you're going to help her out. And when Lex is gone, Paul, the property would convert back to you. That's how you could use a life estate. Don't you think that that's you could commonly? Can't you think of different ways that could be used in real life right now?
So it's kind of like renting.
Yeah, that's what I was.
Well, it's not
In
like
terms of
renting. You
the-
have possession.
Well, yeah.
She has. What do you call these things here? What are they called? Bundle rights. She has the right of possession and enjoyment. Okay, but she can't sell it. She don't have disposition.
Yeah, so she has all of them. Then.
No, she can't sell it.
Well, yeah.
She don't have disposition, and she probably would have exclusion. She can keep people. She can't keep me off. Maybe she can keep people off, but she does. And she probably has enjoyment. I don't know, because somebody else has some rights to that, don't they? Yeah. Maybe she would have enjoyment, but she don't have disposition.
So all the rights except just.
Well, don't get confused on that. She has some rights, but not all the rights. Okay? And as long as she's living, she has those rights. But if it was a remainder, ordinary with the remainder of revision, when Lex was gone, those rights would come back to me. Or if I did Port de Vie, when Lex is gone, those rights would go to her brother Paul. And Paul would now own the property and have a freehold estate in it. Life estate's gone. See how that life estate can be used? I mean, it can be used. There's so many. How many people have children, relatives that need some help, need a place to stay? My mother would have gave my brothers a life estate in her house in a minute and said to me, Tom, when your brother passes away, you get the property. Because they're irresponsible. Okay? Or for whatever reason. And they needed a place to stay. Wasn't better off. So the life estates are used. And we've sold properties. I sold a property one time where the lady had a life estate. It was 30 acres. She had a life estate for 1 acre and a mobile home on it. You could probably see that property from here. I don't know if you can or not. You may be able to. Up on that hill. And the family bought it, and they bought it. They controlled all the other acreage, but as long as that lady was living, she had a right to live there in that mobile home on an acre of property. And when she passed away, then the property went to the people who bought it. Bless you.
So while she was living on the property, she paid the taxes.
I don't know about that. Don't worry about that.
I need to.
Don't worry about that. Don't worry about who was paying taxes.
So,
Okay, just worry that she had a right to live on that property for as long as she lived. Because who's paying taxes will never come up on the test. She had a right to live on that property as long as she lived. And when she died, if it went back to the original owner, it was ordinary with the remainder of revision. And if it went to a third party, it was Port de Vie. That's all you need to know for the test. Go ahead.
Port de Vie then becomes a freehold estate.
Yes. Yeah,
So
either
that's-
one of them, then it would become a freehold estate again. Yeah, it would revert back to a freehold estate.
You would be the freehold, like you or your brother's situation.
Well, if
your
it goes to Paul, third party, he would have a freehold estate then, because nobody else has any interest in it. And if it went back to me or my heirs, they would have a freehold estate. Because sometimes it goes to the heirs. You know what I'm saying? Let's say I have a condo in Florida on the beach. And I say, Lex, I know you don't like my new wife. So I'm going to give you a life estate on that condo in Florida. As long as you're living, it's yours. But whenever you're done and you pass away, it's going to come back to me or my estate. I mean, that could be used very commonly like that, right? Wouldn't that be nice? Wouldn't that be, Lex would like it. You want one too, right? So that's how you can use a life estate. A life estate is set up, to let somebody use some of the bundle of rights for a period of time based on somebody's life. It could be based on, and then it could come back to the original person who gave the life estate or their estate, or it could come back to a third party. I mean, I can see my mom doing that in a minute with her house. Tom, I'm going to let Chatty have the house. He's going to live in it as long as he's living. But I need you to make sure he's okay, that the place is kept up, that the taxes are paid, and when he passes away, the house can go to you. I mean, I could see parents doing that every day to help somebody that's maybe for whatever reason. Go ahead, Helen, you had a question.
So are they considered a property owner? No.
They have it. Well, what's a property owner? What the hell is a property owner? Tell me what's the definition in the back of the book of a property owner? Look it up. Everybody look at the back of the book. See if there's anybody, if there's a definition. She's going to look at it, she knows. Look, Jason's saying he ain't even looking. There's no such thing. I don't think there's a definition for property owner. Is there? There's ownership interest in real estate with that bundle of rights. And you can have certain rights and not have others.
There's property manager.
Property manager, not property owner, is there? Don't worry about it. It's not on the test. It's not in the back of the book, it's not on the test. Okay? I don't know. How much further do I?
It's a crazy question, because I think one weirder than others. So, let's say I got this, I own this plot of land, I have a house on it. I'm doing all right, I got 2 kids, and I win the lottery. And I say to my one daughter, hey, you know what I'm gonna do is, I'm gonna build my own house on this property. And I'm gonna allow you to live in the house. And
As long as you're living.
as long as I'm living.
No, as long as she's living. Okay.
She will be able to, if I die, she'll be able to stay in that house, and that original house becomes a freehold estate for her. And she can do whatever the hell she wants to do. And I could set up a brand new house and the rest of the land.
So
This is what I'm gonna say. Too much off of the beaten path, and you guys don't know the friggin' beaten path yet, let alone worried about what's off of it. Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. Don't confuse it. And I don't like to go into stories. You notice I cut the stories out real quick, right? Because this is already too confusing. And when we start putting scenarios in, they're off the beaten path. I don't know. I'm gonna tell you how I would use a life estate. If I owned a property and if Bonnie was my girlfriend and I was single, I could say, Bonnie, you can live in this house as long as you're living. But when you die, it comes back to me, and if I'm not here, it goes back to my heirs. I mean, that can be used every day like that. Ain't that a real case scenario? Right?
That's what.
What's that? That would be ordinary with the remainder vision coming back to me. And then not back to me, back to my estate. So, that could happen every day like that.
if you die and she was still living in the house, it goes to her?
It goes to my heirs.
So
I
she's
get
got
to
to
know.
get
I don't
out.
like her. I'm
No,
just
no,
like
no, no,
that.
no, no.
Oh.
It's not based on my life.
Oh,
It's based on her life.
Okay, we'll say.
So she couldn't kick me out if you died.
That's right. She couldn't kick you out. As long as you're living, you have a right. But when you're died,
Whether you like
or you abandon the property,
Well, yeah.
then it goes back to my Lexi.
It's
Now-
a loss.
Lex may have, you may want to watch your back a little bit, because Lex just got a permit to carry, So then, so that's a conventional life estate. Now there's what we call a legal life estate, where it's made legally. Okay? And there's 3 different ways of doing that. Okay? One is dower, one is courtesy, and then the other is homestead. I don't know if I have them right, because I'm not looking at my notes, but dower would be the right of the wife to live in the house if the husband passes away. Courtesy would be the right for the husband to live in the house if the wife passes away. And homestead would give some protection. Let's say me and Seneca are married, and I buy the house, and I have the mortgage in my name, and we're married, and I die. Homestead would give her a right to continue to make those payments and stay in the house.
But that's not the first one.
No, that right to make the payments. The lender can't come in and take the house off of you. The lender can't. So we may get into a little bit more of that here. Let's see what else it says. Life estate, freehold estate, is limited to the life of a specific person. It can be an estate holder or another. They get the entire bundle of rights, except they cannot pass ownership to their heirs, and it ends with the death of the owner of the estate. Okay, so if I gave Lexi that life estate, it would end with the death of her. Okay, it's an intentional act. It's transferred during the life or even part of a will. It's conveyed to what they call a life tenant. It ends with the death of another person against whose life was measured. That would be port to vie. It may be sold, leased, or mortgaged, or given away. Okay, her interest, but it cannot waste. You cannot waste or harm the estate. And port to vie is tied to a third party. Let me see if this video works here that I put in here. No. I don't know. Oh, I'm almost done with this. So let me scream through some stuff just real quick. Okay. So there's a drawing apparently on one of these pages, figure 5.2. And here's the grantor in the lower left corner. Everybody looking at the drawing on figure 5.2? And he gives a life estate to the life tenant. Now that property is either going to go back to the grantor upon the tenant's death, or it's going to go to the third person, the remainder person, and they call that the remainder man. In Pennsylvania, probate estates creates a legal life estate for the surviving spouse of the deceased owner. Remember I said legally how it does it, that dower or curry, whatever. So in Pennsylvania, it creates a legal life estate for the surviving spouse. Permits 1/3 of the estate or what is directed in the deceased will. If the person dies intestate, I wouldn't worry about that. In Pennsylvania, spousal signatures. PA abolished dower and courtesy. Okay. PA did, but remember, you gotta take a national test too. PA does not require the non-owning spouse to sign real estate documents. Signatures may be required by a lender or title company. So my wife Nina and myself, I bought my building before I was married to her, where my office is. Okay, I bought it solely by Tom Simon. Now I'm legally married to my wife. Okay? If I want to sell that building, Pennsylvania does not require her to sign the deed if I wanted to sell it to one. So because I bought that property prior to us being married, Pennsylvania law says I can convey that property without her. Now, if I would have bought it when I was married, then both of us would have to sign. But Pennsylvania law says I can go ahead and convey that property without her signing because I bought it prior to us being married. The caveat is, signatures may be required by a lender or title company. So, if I wanted to sell that property today, and I wanted to sell it to Lauren, and she's gonna probably be sharp enough to at least get a title search, right? And they're gonna find out that I'm married now, because that's the question they're gonna ask me. And the title company's gonna say to Lauren, I'm getting Nina a signature on that damn thing if I was you, because the last thing you want is Nina to come back after the fact and say she has an interest in that property. So the title company or a lender may require that Nina sign off, not necessarily. So you may say, Tom, I want Nina to sign. And I'm gonna say, no, I don't want her to sign. And you're gonna say, forget it, I'm not gonna do the deal. Well, then Ellen may come into the picture and say, hey, Tom, I'll buy that property off of you, and I don't care if Nina signs or not, as long as you sign it over to me. Now, Ellen may know that there may be a problem down the road with the title, but she may be willing to take that risk. She may be willing, because PA law says I don't have to have her sign, but unless the title insurance company may require it. But Ellen's saying she don't care about title insurance, she wants the property. So it doesn't mean you can't convey it, just means you may not be able to get title insurance. So Ellen may buy it, but not be able to get title insurance. Understand? Okay. What?
We're out of focus for 2
What's that?
We're out of focus.
Are we wrapping it up? Okay, we're gonna stop right here at encumbrances for the day. Okay, so we got started on that whatever unit that was, unit 5.
That's very confusing.
Was that confusing?
I mean, like, you helped, but like, it's still like.
Well, you know what? I like that, Seneca. And if you're looking for brownie points, you sure are getting them. I can tell you that. Now, not for nothing, you can always go on my Facebook page and send me a friend request, and I'll accept that. You're gonna have to look over the next couple of days, and you can give me a good review on Facebook. You can give me a good review on my company's webpage that you guys think that I'm a good instructor, and if you're thinking about getting into real estate, call Tom Simon. How's that sound?